Hello world! Today I'm taking you to Tamba Sasayama, a Japanese castle town about an hour's train ride from Kyoto and Osaka. We're going to check out what a Jokamachi, a castle town, is like nowadays. And to start off, I think it makes sense to visit the center of it all, Sasayama Castle. It was built in 1609, and in fact, it was the fastest built castle in Japan, completed in less than a year. If you look at the model of how it was like, you may notice that there's no keep. They were supposed to build one, but the plans were abandoned. Depending on who's telling the story, you'll get a different answer as to why that was. Some say it's because the castle was so well designed that a keep wasn't needed, or that a keep would make it too formidable if it were to be taken by the enemy. The less romantic version is that they were in a rush to build Nagoya Castle next, and stopped building the keep because the castle was good enough. Whatever the reason, this corner of the castle is where the keep was supposed to be built. And this is the view from the base of the keep. Now, one thing you'll notice from this model is that most of the walls and buildings are gone. My first thought was fire. So many of Japan's great buildings have been lost to fire. One sad recent example is Shuri Castle in Okinawa. For Sasayama Castle, this actually wasn't the case. Instead, it carries the same history as other castles after the Meiji Restoration, which occurred in 1868. This is when the Tokugawa shogunate was ousted and imperial rule restored under Emperor Meiji. During this time, many castles were dismantled. So that's why, when I went to visit Sendai Castle with my wife, I found this. Which is also why Sasayama only has its grand palace left, the O-Shoin. Although, wait a second, it did get destroyed by an accidental fire in the 20th century. It was rebuilt in 2000, which accounts for why it's in such great shape. Something else that was reconstructed were samurai outfits. I really love this one for some reason. When you look at the castle grounds from above, it's obvious that there's a big part of it that's used for parking. These areas were part of the second bailey and third bailey that were used to protect the castle. This is where samurai would work and live. On the grounds, there's a Shinto shrine called Aoyama Shrine, which was for the castle owner who was named Aoyama. There's also a public elementary school that was built with wood, like it would have been a long time ago. So that's why it doesn't look like a lot of modern schools you see around Japan. What I couldn't puzzle out before visiting was how much history I'd be able to see. I say this because sometimes when traveling to a historical area, it can end up being really tiny. So I was pleasantly surprised when I found that there were numerous long stretches of traditional style housing and shops you would see from the Edo period, hundreds of years ago. Historical districts are protected, and the city and residents clearly made preserving them a priority. And it's not only the exteriors that were preserved. Inside, you're able to see a bunch of history. For example, this old house was made into a bakery. The owners, formerly from Osaka, moved here to enjoy a slower pace of life. This building, that used to be a playhouse, is now used as a coffee shop. Like the bakery owners, they also moved here from a big city. And what do you know? Another young person who has converted an old building into something else. This time, it's a brewery. What's kind of cool is that in the back there's a kuda, a storehouse, and you can see its many layers of doors. Around the corner is Sumi Shrine, which has a beautiful rock garden that can be seen for free. I only point this out because in Kyoto, it can cost you 300 or 500 yen for a similar view. What I found, for lack of a better word, alarming, was the 4 p.m. call. 大丈夫? I mistakenly thought it was the test drill of an emergency siren. In fact, it was a regular 4 p.m. call telling kids to go home. I was relieved to find out that this siren of a call wasn't used everywhere. In the area around the castle, there was a festive tune played, which has its roots in the Dekansho Bushi, a folk song and dance performed in this town. Our hotel happened to be the former home of an oil merchant. What do you think? This one? This color? Which one? It's of course been renovated, but it has an eclectic mix of old and new. The heaters, lights, electricity, beds, baths, and toilets. Hello. Are all the latest technology. But the door? I think this is outside. This goes right outside. That's why it's cold in this room. Okay. Wakarimashita. Let's just say that the heaters were working extra hard to compensate. Luckily for me, the bathing room had a gorgeous looking and fantastic smelling cypress bath. Real stone. Real cypress. Ah, it's an automatic one. Huh? It doesn't work anymore. Look at what's on the menu. The dinner was all sorts of deliciousness. So this is actually soup. I thought it was tea. Let's try it out. Wow. It was orchestrated by a chef trained in French cuisine, but who used local ingredients. Because of this fusion, there were so many dishes that I had never tasted before, and it has to be one of the top 10 meals I've had in my life. For example, have you tasted apple with turnip, pea shoots, and miso sauce? How about burdock and chocolate? All the courses were such a delight. Something that I was highlighting throughout the meal was the use of local pottery, which the area has an 800-year history of. However, that's something I'll tell you about in an upcoming video.
はい、では今からお肉のメイン料理をさせていただきます。こちらが、黒毛和牛のロース肉ですね。今半分火の入った状態となっております。でただいまよりこちらの米わら、こちらに火を灯しまして、でその煙で最後お肉の風味付けをさせていただきます。この笹山も米どころでございまして、そうですね。お肉を米わらでやってるとこはあまりないですね。
This is the milk tea set, so British style. Nice. The merchant district was quite lovely to stroll around. As I'll show you, these buildings are really long due to the nature of taxation in the past, where you were only taxed on how wide your place was. So this naturally led to buildings being very skinny and very long. I previously did a video about Kyomachia, which are traditional Japanese homes in Kyoto. While Tamba Sasayama is technically in the neighboring prefecture of Hyogo, you can see how the Kyoto style influenced the homes.
まあ小京都と言われるぐらいですから、まあ落ち着いた佇まいのやっぱり町という、まあそれが一つの魅力かもしれませんね。
There are many areas around Japan that are called small Kyotos. They have the history without the crush of crowds. That's why you can go to these rows of torii and take your time enjoying them. The shrine's unofficial name, Make Kirai, literally means hate to lose. In case you're wondering about the sumo fox, the tale goes that once upon a time, some foxes turned themselves into sumo wrestlers, traveled to Ryogoku, Tokyo, and in front of the shogun, won a sumo competition on behalf of the area. Now this is a popular place to pray at before sports competitions. In the district of Okachimachi, you can get a feel for what it might have been like hundreds of years ago for the kachi, which were the foot soldier samurai. I wonder how old this wall is, because that lean is legit. It was kind of neat how some newer homes were built to reflect the traditional thatched roof style, like this house. This is an old samurai house that has been turned into a museum. You can see things like an iron that would retain its heat by placing a piece of hot coal inside of it. Or this yutampo, a hot water bottle to keep yourself warm while you're sleeping at night on this wood block of a pillow. Actually, it was covered with a cotton pad and fabric, so it would have been more comfortable than this. In the yard, they buried a tachikui pot upside down and placed rocks over top of it, so that when you pour water over top, you can hear a, and I quote, beautiful splashing sound. At the edge of the grounds is a bamboo grove. I was told the bamboo groves were planted to distinguish between the living areas of samurai and other classes, the peasants, merchants, and artisans. Of those three other classes, it was the peasants, the farmers, that were higher up than the merchants and artisans, as they produced the most important thing, food. A couple blocks away, I went to a store/cafe called Breath and Roy, whose name I would explain, but it's a long story. They have a bunch of local goods, but what caught my eye was the tea room in the back. There you could sit down like how daimyo would have in the past with their little tables and enjoy the gardens while munching on traditional Japanese treats. This is the chestnut, which the owner collects and preserves himself. And this is azuki beans and mochi. Also tasty. If you've seen my videos, you'd probably know that I'm not a big drinker of alcohol. I got the whole Asian flush thing going on. But even if you're not into alcohol, this former sake brewery was interesting as it's been turned into a museum, so you can see how sake was made back in the day. The company still actually makes sake, but just not at this site anymore. Something peculiar to a lot of brewers is that they play music to the sake, which I'm told stimulates and activates the yeast. And like I said, while I'm not a drinker, I did try a sample, trying to decide what gift to bring back for Otou-san, my wife's father. So, what is it like living in a castle town nowadays?
非常に難しいですけどね、まあもう当然住んでいるので特別な覚えっていうのは普段あんまり感じてないんですよね。
Yeah, that's about what I expected for an answer. For locals, it's normal. It's their everyday. But for tourists, there's a lot of history that you can see, touch, and experience. So to fresh eyes, it's a great trip. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.